You let me violate you.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Nailing Flicks for a very special episode where the three of us,
Fabrice,
Gers,
and Eleanor,
are going to look at three debut films from directors, and we have from 1978,
Yep.
Errol Morris's first documentary, Gates of Heaven, Whip It from Drew Barrymore, and James Cameron's Piranha 2 The Spawning. Let's start off with Gates of Heaven.
Well, I know people have been very good to me, Ron. Well, they seen my condition. I guess that's what they're sorry for me. But it's real, my condition is. It's not put on, that's for sure. Boy, if I could only walk, if I could only get out, drive my car, I'd get another car. Yeah, and my son, if he was only better to me. After I bought him that car, he's got a nice car. I bought it myself just a short time ago. I don't know. These kids. Sometimes the more you do for him, he's my grandson, but I raised him from 2 years old. And my husband always told me, he says, Mama, someday you're going to be sorry. That was a car, huh? Was that? Oh, boy. He says, some days you're going to be sorry. You see how it happens, things? I don't see him very often. And he just got the car. I didn't pay for all of it. I gave him $400. Pretty good. His boss knows it. Well, he's not working for that outfit now. He's changed. He's gone back on his old job, hauling sand. No, not hauling sand. He's working in the office, that's right.
Errol Morris is a well-known documentary maker whose most recent works are Standard Operating Procedure and Fog of War, for which he won an Oscar. His first film was Gates of Heaven, a documentary about a pet cemetery. Through different discussions with cemetery owners, their family members, and the customers, we learn about the business. Alright, firstly, I really enjoyed this film. It's a documentary, but done in a very unique style, I think, in that it's just very simply told. Everyone's given the space to talk, in fact, in a way that will just let them meander off onto topics which are seemingly completely irrelevant. And it sort of becomes more of a study, in a way, in just about various people, as opposed to just being a kind of a one-dimensional study about a pet cemetery, which is interesting in itself. But I think through this, it just becomes so much more. At one point, we're sitting down listening to a grandmother discussing her grandson and how she no longer feels supported by him, and how she's looked after him all of her life and all of this kind of stuff. And I through listening to that, I realized that was completely irrelevant to the actual subject matter in a way, but I just became sort of more interested in hearing those sides of things, and therefore just in learning about the people and themselves. And I think that's actually Errol Morris's strength. He was actually a private investigator before he became a documentary filmmaker, and so he obviously understands people very well, and so I find it fascinating. But over to both of you.
Well, I found it fascinating as well. I think everything that you say about it is pretty much my thoughts on it as well. I guess the only thing that I would add to that is that I love the colour palette. He seems to take an ordinary looking background, like tall leaves or a cornfield or something like that in the background, and he'll have the two talking heads in front of it, and they'll be wearing, in this sea of green, they'll be wearing this in a bright pink and bright yellow shirt. And it's just very striking. But I agree with you in that these are real people.
Yeah.
And they're real. They're not characters as such. They're real people, and to hear them talk about life and have their musings and take on life is it is fascinating. It's very interesting stuff.
Yeah, I love documentaries. I do. I actually like them more than normal films. So when not normal films, but
Fiction films.
Fiction films.
Yeah.
So this documentary, this style of documentary making, I've watched Fog of War and The Thin Blue Line. I love those Errol Morris, contributions. I found this really agitating. Like, I watched it, I found it really discordant. The beginning section where they're with a particular group talking about their attempt and why they attempted to create this first pet cemetery, I was sort of trying to keep up, going, what's going on? And then it just clicked, and it went on to this new, different group who already had an established pet cemetery. And in the midst of that was that, and it was fascinating, but that story you were talking about with that, that elderly lady talking about it, and I was watching that, and this part of me was going, what the fuck? I had no idea where that sat in the mix of it, you know what I mean? So it didn't, considering, I don't know, like I look at other docos of the time that are quite well known, like Pumping Iron, which was the year before,
and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
That for me had this real kind of through line of what the doco was about and what it was exploring, and for some reason this doco, not that I needed a documentary to be, to lay it all out, but it didn't sit with me. Like I just, at the end I was kind of going, these people were interesting, like the son and him. I don't think it's not, I don't mean it as a spoiler, but it was this really heartbreaking sort of listening to the son talk about his trials in love and being on the mountainside and playing, out into this valley, playing his guitar out into this valley. It was really, these really beautiful moments in it, but I was like, where does it sit? Like, what's the story? You know what I mean? Like, it was an examination, but it kind of presented itself as something else. So maybe that's my fault. Maybe I was expecting something else, and I watched it and I was like,
yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I would think so. I think that if you go in there expecting, a standard documentary, if there is such a thing, like something that's very definite about a definite topic.
These other documentaries are like that.
Yeah.
Thin Blue Line.
Thin Blue Line, definitely.
Maybe that's where I was conditioned from,
But there are other ones of his that aren't like that. I think, there's at least another one or two of his early documentaries that aren't like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's his later work that's become much more kind of focused in that way.
Yeah, that's what I found. It was unfocused, and and for some reason, and we say this at any given time when we watch a film, but in particular with this one, knowing Errol Morris's other work, it annoyed me. Like, I was kind of like, okay, I need what are you telling me? What am I looking at? And getting these really kind of beautiful, poignant moments amidst it all. But the overall arc of the documentary for me was really like just all over the shop, I found.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with that. Ostensibly it's about pet cemeteries, or the idea of concept of pet cemeteries. But it's actually about people. It's actually about human beings. And it's almost like a time capsule. He's just taken a slice of life for this group of people that he's talked to, and he's like you said, simply told and simply made, and he's just put it there, and you can draw your own conclusions. And I love that.
I just found it really unbalanced and discordant.
Discordant.
It didn't sit well with me.
Okay. No, I really, really liked it. Fascinating is the word for me for this film.
Same, absolutely.
Well, without further ado, shall we hammer it?
7, I think. Yeah.
I'm actually going to give it a 9.
I'm going to give it a 5.
Wow.
Make of that what you will.
We should do this more often.
I got a stereo system aside from a recording system. It's a Pioneer SX1010, and it's 100 watts per channel, which is very powerful. And on some occasions, say late afternoon when there's nobody up here at the park, I'll take my speakers and I'll put them outside and turn it up, and you can hear it. It goes through the whole valley, and you can hear it from miles away.